Okay, it's time to get started. Hello everyone, and thanks for your time this afternoon. My name is Pauline McGilvray. I'm the Chief Corporate Services Officer here at the Y. And today I'm joined by Amanda Locke, our Chief Operations Officer. Hi Amanda.
Everyone, hey Pauline.
And also Nicole Rudden, our General Manager of Risk, Safety, Environment, Quality and Governance. Hi Nicole. Martina's here as well, Martina Smythe, our General Manager of P&C, and she's going to join us at the end for questions and answers to assist with any of our HR-related questions. Today, we'll be providing an update on the following topics. Amanda is going to provide a restart update. Nicole is going to provide a COVID-safe workplace update, and I'm going to take you through some really positive highlights from last week. We will then open up for questions and answer as many as possible as usual in our half-hour time slot. I'll now hand over to Amanda for an update on how we are progressing towards restarting our facilities. Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks, Pauline, and hi, everyone. Last week, we provided an overview of the three-step COVID-safe roadmap released by the federal government and the predicted dates the Victorian government has set as we slowly begin to reopen businesses and services across the state. We also communicated that the majority of our business will only be able to reopen from or after step 3 of this COVID-safe roadmap. It is predicted that we will move to step 3 in July. I'd like to reiterate at this point that as this has not changed since last week. I know that for many of you, you simply want to know a date that you can expect to return to work. And while we cannot give this to you, we will continue to provide you with updates on how things are progressing. We're currently working with project managers across each sector to determine the timeline for reopening. This is a huge undertaking and must be done in a coordinated and planned approach. Being COVID safe and reopening our facilities is a shared responsibility. And as such, we're working with our local government and other industry partners throughout this process to ensure that we're all on the same page. We are also undertaking some industry advocacy in sectors including aquatics, health and wellness, gymnastics and skate parks on how we can operate our facilities safely as well as in a financially sustainable way. The South Australian Aquatic and Leisure Centre, also known as SALC, which we manage, was the first public pool in South Australia to reopen during COVID-19, with lap swimming commencing just this week. The team itself worked with IT to trial a new platform for online bookings, and there is potential to roll this out more broadly at our other sites. In Victoria, we're looking to SALC to learn from, as they're quite a few steps ahead. Please remember that South Australia are in a different position with far less COVID-19 confirmed cases and are receiving directives from the South Australian state government. Next week in Victoria, grades Prep 1 and 2 will return to school, which means that the children's program team are getting busy and ready for this expansion of demand for our outside school hours care program. We appreciate your patience as we work towards reopening. Internally, we're undertaking a significant process for work to be ready, including COVID safety and hygiene practices, financial modelling, and our procedures for bringing staff back into the workplace as and when we need to. As well as preparing for staff to return and ensuring that our workplaces are COVID safe, we're also undertaking research with our rep customers to understand their needs, expectations, and concerns at this time. The research will be completed over coming weeks to understand customer sentiment, attitudes and behaviours around health and recreation, future engagement with these services, and expectations as we come out of lockdown and into the new normal. I'll now hand over to Nicole, who will talk to us about COVID safety.
Nicole, you're on mute.
Is that better?
That's lovely.
That's a surprise for me. Let's start again. Hi, everybody, and thanks, Amanda. I'd like to begin with the most important message, and that is that everything that the YMCA does is with the safety of our staff and communities as our first priority. We have a responsibility as an organisation to ensure that the health and safety of our communities is put first at all times. We also have a responsibility to ensure we are doing everything possible to help flatten the curve and reduce the chance of exposure to coronavirus. What this means is while we may hear from different government representatives that particular services can open from a certain date and with numbers of people gathering, this does not automatically mean that it applies immediately to the YMCA. We take safety really seriously and need to be fully prepared and ready to reopen in the safest way possible before doing so. So what will this look like? We are developing new safety procedures and checklists to ensure all our workplaces are COVID safe. This has involved consultation with industry experts, compliance to government requirements and safety measures, and understanding the resources and necessary requirements for an organisation of our size. The following slides provide a snapshot of the things that we are needing to take into consideration for implementation. So in relation to restart, from a risk and safety perspective, all facilities will be COVID safe before reopening. Restart and reopening checklists have been developed, which will include social distancing requirements and other COVID safe measures. Staff will be required to complete the COVID safe online training provided by the Department of Health and Human Services and complete a COVID safe commitment statement to ensure that everyone understands what COVID safe looks like at YMCA Victoria. Staff and patron COVID safe expectations and rules will be displayed at all facilities and communicated via social media and websites. Personal protective equipment and hygiene supplies will be provided. Things like gloves, hand sanitizer, disinfectant wipes, and tally counters. Managers will be communicated with to determine what is needed at their sites in the coming week. In terms of COVID safe and social distancing, the following will be tailored to suit each facility where necessary. All staff, visitors and members of the public will be temperature checked prior to entering a facility. Maintaining the 1.5 metre and 4 metre squared social distancing or modification of environments to ensure social distancing is possible. For example, the removal of or the closure of seats. Decal stickers will be placed on floors. The provision of sneeze screens. Booking systems will be in place. We have a responsibility to record all visitors at our sites. This is more important than ever before if there is a confirmed case of coronavirus to be able to identify and trace to limit the spread. Identification of all spaces and the capacity limits of each space, for example, in meeting rooms, in fitness rooms and dining halls. COVID-safe operating procedures are being developed for programs, tasks and facility areas. Again, for fitness classes, adventure activities, spas and saunas. There will be increased cleaning of facilities and in the event of a confirmed case, a decontamination clean of the area or facility will be undertaken. In the event of a suspected or a confirmed case of COVID-19, we have an 8-step process that is displayed on the screen. The 8 steps are to isolate, to transport the person, to escalate, to inform, to close or isolate the area or the facility, to identify, to clean, to review, and then to reopen the facility if it was closed. This process is already located on the COVID-19 resources website for staff to review. And finally from me, please remember to take care of yourself during this time. Managing our mental and physical health during challenging times like this is so important. Our employee assistance program is available to everyone 24/7 and provides so much more than just traditional counselling. EAP can be accessed through LifeWorks, our external provider, by visiting LifeWorks website or by calling 1300 361 008. Thanks everybody, and over to you, Pauline.
Thanks, Nicole, that's fantastic. And thanks to Amanda. We're now going to move on to the highlights from last week that we'd also like to take the opportunity to share with you today. While as an organisation we're going through an extremely difficult period, and as individuals we're also facing many challenges we've never faced before, we feel it's really important to continue to highlight the achievements and positive stories that the Y are still creating during this time. The first highlight is our Community Activation Award. This week, it was announced that the Y has won the Community Activation Award in the 2020 Australian Fitness Awards for our partnership program with the Wangaratta Council. The winning program was the Walk to School program, where 2,370 local students walked, rode, or scooted a combined total of 30,630 kilometres together to school. That's absolutely fantastic, and congratulations to the team involved at Wangaratta Y. The second highlight is our La Trobe Youth Space. The La Trobe Youth Space in Morwell has received $4.3 million in funding from the state government to redesign, redevelop and run this space. In the past year, the La Trobe Youth Space has connected with more than 12,000 young people. So this funding is very exciting, as it will create even more opportunities for young people to feel supported and connected, and what better time than now. This funding will also help to generate up to 50 future employment opportunities, which is wonderful. The next highlight is National Volunteer Week. This week is National Volunteers Week. At a time when the vast majority of our services are closed due to COVID-19, we've been blown away and humbled by the energy and dedication our volunteers have continued to show during these tough times. Many of our volunteers usually spend time providing support to others on our programs, but with these programs on hold, they have banded together to support each other instead. In the past few months, our volunteers have given almost 800 hours of their time to host inclusive online sessions to provide support and engagement for young people and other volunteers. This has been through the youth hubs, the EY space, and through the Y isolation sessions on the Y Victoria Facebook page. So a big thank you to all our amazing volunteers. The Y wouldn't be the same without you. The final highlight is a big shout out to the Carlton Baths. Carlton Baths are finding a way to continue to support the community despite their doors being closed. They have connected with local cafes such as Tanaka Coffee and Grocers, who have generously donated meals and fresh produce to give to locals living in the Carlton housing estate across the road. Carlton Baths have coordinated this through the Carlton Neighbourhood Learning Centre. And last week, 100 meals were delivered to vulnerable members of the community. This is a great example of the community coming together to support one another during times of hardship. Well done to all of you. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about these positive stories. We're really proud of what the Y continues to achieve during these challenging times. It's a testament to all of our people who continue to support communities when the going gets tough. Now we're going to move to the question and answer section. As always, please type your questions using the Q&A function, and we will try and get through as many as we can. Okay, let's have a look. All right, first question. Amanda, this one's for you. Why are we planning to reopen in stage 3 when the gyms are listed in stage 2?
Thanks, Pauline. Look, this is a complex question because what we can't do is simply reopen our doors and operate as we did before closing. We're having to redesign our whole business model, which includes things like Nicole has spoken to today, the enormous work that needs to go on behind the scenes with regards to making sure that our services are COVID safe. We also have to work with our relevant partners, particularly our local government partners and industry partners, to make sure that we're doing things in step and we're doing things together, so that we're not surprising any of our partners, but rather there's a full partnership approach to the opening of the services. We have to make sure that we get our staffing considerations right, and there is an awful lot of things to think about in terms of an operating model for reopen. Things like people traffic flows in aquatic spaces, how do we manage social distancing, where does the instructor stand, all those sorts of things. There's an incredible amount of detailed planning that needs to take place. So in amongst all of that, we need to ensure that we can keep our facilities safe for our customers and for our patrons. And we also need to make sure that we can do it in a viable way. So whilst we can only have 20 people in a facility, that doesn't necessarily mean that we can simply open, because the cost to get the facility open might be excessive. So for example, a king swim pool, the overheads with regards to chemicals and utilities with heating the water and the water costs themselves, they're extensive. So we just have to take the balance between all of those competing priorities.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Amanda. I'm sure, as you can all hear, there's a lot of considerations we have to weigh up to ensure that we're able to open all of our facilities over the next little while. Okay, question for Nicole. What will social distancing look like in all recreation and leisure when all YMCA facilities in Victoria? So these include pools, gyms and sports stadiums. So I think the question is, what does social distancing look like, Nicole?
Yeah, and Amanda touched on it. There's a number of elements, but it includes mapping. So things such as our traffic, social distancing, one person per 4 square metres, so decals, capping the number of people that are allowed into our facilities at any given point in time, booking systems, buffer periods between the booking periods to allow for appropriate cleaning. They're just some examples, which is why we are taking the time to plan in relation to our reopening.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Nicole. Martina, this one's for you. What's up with the pay we just got?
Hi, everybody. Some people will have received an extra pay. We did mention it last week in the webinar, and this is in relation to, it's specifically a JobKeeper payment. And with some of the, we have talked a lot of times about the JobKeeper and the number of changes there have been. There were some changes to the pay periods in terms of JobKeeper, so we had to move them back by a week, and without getting too technical, all it means is you're now up to date with JobKeeper. So those of you who are on JobKeeper got an extra bonus this week.
Fantastic. Thank you, Martina. And I think it's good for everyone to know that we're working really closely with the Australian Tax Office to ensure that every payment you all receive is the right one, and that's what we had to do this week. So thanks, Martina. Amanda, another question for you. Will doors open in stage 3 for swimming lessons?
Great question, Pauline. So we just have to work through our planning process, as I spoke to before. It's possible that we'll open in stage 3, but we're still not clear on the specific government guidelines. There's some advocacy that's happening between ourselves and our peak bodies, 2 levels of government, because there's some restrictions that are currently in place that might mean that we can't open our services as early as we'd like to. So for example, if we're to observe social distancing in the water in aquatics, it might mean that we can only have 10 or 15 people in the facility. And that in turn might mean that it's actually not viable for us to open. So we're doing a lot of advocacy work, as I said, with our industry partners and with local governments as well, so that we can work through some of those intricacies and rules that the governments are currently setting us.
Great. Thanks so much, Amanda. Nicole, another question for you. Random question. Is there any extension for first aid and CPR that might have expired during the stand down time? I'm with King Swim.
Yeah, that is a great question. We are currently working with L&D and the People and Culture team in relation to the compliances in relation to first aid and CPR. And Martina, would you like to add to that in terms of the extension period? Because obviously a lot of this learning needs to be done online.
Yes. We have been working with LSV particularly to try and get some extensions in some of the areas. The biggest problem will be with the practical component. So that's where it may be that we're still working through some things, but staff who are getting ready to come back to work will be able to do all of the online components, and then they may get an exemption for a particular part that they can do when they come back to work. And that will have to happen at the beginning of their return to work. So it will mean that once areas start to look at the stand-ups, what the P&C team are doing with the health and safety team is we're looking at all of the compliances, and it goes right across the board. So not just the qualification sides of things, but also the working with children's and the skip and all of those sorts of things. We'll be able to do a little bit of a mini audit as staff come back up, make sure everything's up to date, work with our staff whose quals aren't up to date to get them ready to return to work as soon as possible.
Beautiful. Thanks, Martina. Thanks, Nicole. Here's a comment from Marie. Thanks for acknowledging our big win. We are very proud. With love, Trish and Marie from Wangaratta. Well done, guys. That's great. Okay. Another question around training, COVID training, probably for Martina. How do staff access the COVID-19 training required?
Actually, I'm going to hand that one to you, Nick. I think that's
Wrong one.
Again, we're in the process of working with the L&D team to communicate that out to all staff. So watch this space on that one, and that will be communicated out within ideally we are hoping to communicate that out to everyone within the next week. We are working with business systems in terms of what is the most ideal platform to communicate that out to all staff and volunteers. So yeah, please, ideally we're going to be communicating that in next week's webinar. That is our plan.
Beautiful.
If I could just add on that, the other side of it is too, when staff are working with their managers to be stood up, all of these things, as they apply to you as an individual, we will work through with you. So it'll be a really good time for you. Once you've got your time frame, you'll understand how to undertake the relevant training.
Fantastic. Thank you both, Martina and Nicole. Amanda, one for you. How will parent-child classes work with social distancing?
So at the moment, social distancing is required. Obviously, a parent can hold their own child, but participants of the class need to maintain social distancing, as does the instructor. So that's what we know to this point in time. This is part of an advocacy piece that we're working with Lifesaving Victoria on at the moment to suggest alternate ways of thinking for our governments so that we can work through the complexity of situations such as that. But not an easy one because, you know, another alternative is we have to completely redesign how we actually offer our lessons and do the instruction through the parent as opposed to the role that the instructor would normally have played. So these are all of the scenarios that we need to work through. And, you know, I think this is a great example of the complexity that we have to work through before we can reopen.
Beautiful. Thanks, Amanda. We've also got another one here from King Swim, Amanda. Regarding social distancing, will lesson plans be changed? For example, no more cheek-to-cheek floating, etc.
They absolutely will change. We still don't quite know what that looks like. We've got our managers and some of our senior leaders working through those types of scenarios. We still need to get clarification from the government on exactly what social distancing looks like in aquatic environments. So we're seeking clarification there, but absolutely we're putting that planning in place for all different scenarios.
Beautiful. Thanks, Amanda. We've probably got time for one more question. And this is, hi all, you're all doing a fantastic job. We appreciate all the effort being put in. What does the future of the state office look like and timing to go back to the office? Oh, sorry, Nicole, I might shoot that one over to you. I think that's one we haven't,
Yeah, most certainly. And the same rules apply at state office as they do at any other workplace. So all the requirements in relation to social distancing and ensuring that everyone returns to work safely. So we are planning in the same way as any other return to work and reopening. So at the moment, the government advice is if you can work from home, we must all continue to work from home, and that is what we are doing. But we are planning for the reopening of state office at the point in time that we can do so to ensure that everyone returns to work in a safe environment with social distancing, one person per 4 square metres, etc. So we'll be able to communicate that when we have worked through that planning, and we'll communicate that out to everyone at state office.
That's right.
And
Thank you,
Nicole. As well. So not just state office and Icon Park.
We'll keep you posted on that. As soon as we work through some of the timelines and plans, we'll be updating you as we do every week. Thanks everyone for the questions. There were quite a few there, Martina, on leave and pay and those sorts of things. So we might make sure we continue to update the FAQs on the webinar so that we make sure we address those questions. So after each webinar every week, we get a copy of all the Q&As, and so we go through them and we make sure that we're reaching out to as many people as possible. So thanks for all the questions. Okay, so thanks everybody for your time again this week. We'll be sending out a summary email this afternoon along with the recording of the webinar for those that couldn't make it. Finally, as we've mentioned in previous updates, we are launching a virtual Y. And we've been busy getting the platform ready for launch. Next week, an online group fitness timetable will be shared exclusively with staff and volunteers before launching to customers the week after. The link to participate will be shared via email, as well as the timetable and the group fitness options available. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. Carolyn will be back next week to provide you with another update. Please enjoy the rest of your week and take care. Big thank you to Nicole, Amanda, and Martina. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.